The almost immediate market reaction to news of the Malaysian air crash in Ukraine reminds us that this bull market does have some breaks, and investors have to weigh geopolitical risks. Some say those risks also apply to Alibaba, since the company will be storing a lot of private customer information from millions of people, which may be accessible by the Chinese government. Joining me now is Kevin Freeman, National Security Investment Consultant Institute founder. Kevin, good to see you. You just had a conference exploring some of the dangers, perhaps, of an Alibaba IPO. What are the political risks of it?
Well, there are several. You mentioned one. We know that China has told Google, for example, if you operate in China, you're going to have to pass along certain information. You'll have to stop doing certain things. And Google said no. How much more would a Chinese-based internet company operating globally have to hand over things to the Chinese government? So there are several risks. There are risks to U.S. investors. If we offer an IPO here and raise capital, they're investing in an entity based in the Cayman Islands that may or may not have actual ownership of the Chinese company.
Well, and there are a lot of legal issues. I don't want to get too caught up in the legal weeds of things. We'll get into that. But for the moment, something people can wrap their head around, which is the Chinese government. We know how they get into our information that they're not supposed to get into from our companies. How much easier will it be for them to get into information in one of their own companies?
Oh, absolutely. We have to assume that there is Chinese, either People's Liberation Army money or Chinese government money somewhere in Alibaba. We know also that the Chinese have said Apple iPhones may be a national security risk, and they've looked at the possibility of limiting the use of iPhones. We play by rules that the Chinese do not play by.
Well, but the key is here, it appears that not only investors, but also government officials seem to be kind of either turning a blind eye to it or just ignoring. One of the people at your conference, Fred Fleitz, he's a former CIA guy. He also worked at Defense Intelligence Agency. They know a lot of what they're talking about. He said, and I'm quoting him here, China is using cyber warfare to target foreign infrastructure, to identify dissidents, to harass, arrest, kill, steal industrial secrets. And within the U.S. government and within the corporate world, threats are being dismissed or being argued away. Is that really true?
Well, you know, the unfortunate thing is we silo our government so much. The SEC will look at an initial public offering and say, does it meet our standards? Do they properly disclose the risk? There's no one looking at the national security implications of us investing in a Chinese company. There's all kinds of efforts to prevent a Chinese company from investing in the U.S. and looking at the possible negatives there. But we're so siloed that no one in the government's looking at this. And Wall Street's looking at the fees that they'll earn from what could be the largest IPO in history, possibly raising more money than Google, Facebook, and Twitter combined.
All right. Well, let's talk. And again, I'm going to risk getting into a little bit of legalese here, but there's something called a variable interest entity. That is what this institution would be. That means that certain laws can apply to it from China, and certain laws can apply to it from the United States. But those laws might conflict at various points. So in that case of a conflict, where would Alibaba go?
Of course, they'll go with the Chinese. That's where they're domiciled. That's where the money, the primary ownership is located. And a VIE is not that complicated. Basically, it's a structure designed to make Americans and foreign investors think it's a foreign company, and Chinese investors think it's a Chinese company. But at the end of the day, Chinese law will apply, and the VIE structure may not even be legal in China.
All right, here's the final question, and this would be a big change, and a lot of bankers would hate it. But do you think that any Chinese company trying to put an IPO into one of our institutions should be denied?
Well, this is a special instance for a couple of reasons. One is the size of it, and the second, it's an internet-based company. Some of the IPOs of Chinese companies don't have the VIE structure. You actually have some say in the board of directors and ownership. This one is a special instance, and I think it needs to be scrutinized as such.
There are big questions about Baidu, too, which we don't have time to get into. Kevin Freeman, good to see you. Thank you very much, Kevin. Appreciate it.
Thank you.